Welcome to the Weather Gurus podcast for September 23rd, 2022. We're going to be talking about the tropical update first and then look at the local weather hazards that may be present in the lower 48 United States. Thank you for joining me on this Weather Guru edition. Please be sure to subscribe. I appreciate all your support as we continue to monitor all the storms that are in the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf of Mexico basins at this time. Well, right now you're looking at a picture of Tropical Depression 9. It is currently moving west northwest pretty fast at a 14 mile per hour clip, and we're going to talk about that first before we go into where is Hurricane Fiona going to Category 3 as it moves toward the Canadian Maritimes and Nova Scotia, Halifax, Prince Edward Island, etc. We're also going to be talking about some other things in the tropics as well. But first, this is a picture of Tropical Depression 19. What it has going for it, the pros is that it has plenty of time to get its act together. It has plenty of great convection features in the southwest and southeast quadrants. It is currently facing some extreme wind shear, moderate wind shear coming out of the northeast, that's pumping into the system as it's moving along, and that's exposing the core of the circulation, blowing off a lot of those cold tops. As you can see, the circulation is here, but a lot of the cold cloud tops are in front of it. So it is blowing them off, but nevertheless, it's expecting to strengthen to Tropical Storm Hermine probably by tomorrow night. So this is Tropical Depression 9. There it is right there. Winds at 35 miles an hour. It needs sustained winds above 39 miles an hour to be classified as a quote-unquote tropical storm. Minimum central pressure is 1,006 millibars, and it is currently cruising through the Eastern Caribbean Sea at west-northwest at 12 knots or 14 miles an hour. Now, Fiona, let's go back to Fiona. Hurricane Fiona did blow past Bermuda very fast. As a Category 3, it downgraded around 125 miles an hour. Now, since it's starting to, the structure's improving, it's still a major hurricane. It winds 130 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure is 940 millibars, and is moving quite fast to the northeast at 35 miles an hour. So it's expected to reach the coast of Nova Scotia, Halifax, and the Canadian Maritimes by tomorrow morning, bringing hurricane conditions, Category 2 hurricane conditions, possibly the lowest central pressure ever to that region at about 935, 938 millibars or 940 millibars according to the current projections. We have to keep a close eye on that. Now, the updates from Bermuda here. Bermuda missed the core of the system. They had hurricane force gusts from about 3 a.m. in the morning to 6 a.m. in the morning. Winds gusted over 100 knots. Sustained winds were anywhere between 65 miles per hour and 70 miles per hour. They reported 25,000 people without power, the local Belco power people. Bermuda has a population of 70,000, so that's excellent. They only had about a third of the people lose power. That's being currently restored now. Sunshine on the island right now. Tropical storm watches and warnings have been dropped, and the power crews are out restoring power. As of 2 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, they had maybe still about 10,000 customers without power, 10 to 15,000, which they'll probably get that done tomorrow, if not today. So good news for them, prayers for them. Turks and Caicos, everybody looking good. Puerto Rico is still recovering. Prayers and thoughts are still with them in terms of the power grid situation. Now, we also have Tropical Depression 10. Now, this is going to be a fish storm out here. 35 mile an hour winds, minimum central pressure 1,003 millibars, but it could bring heavy rain to the Cabo Verde, the Cape Verde Islands out there west of Africa. And Gaston is currently bringing tropical storm conditions to the Azores Islands with 65 mile an hour winds, maximum sustained winds, and it's just moving southeast at 8. It's kind of meandering out there as well. This area of disturbance just to the west, a couple hundred miles west of the Cape Verde Islands, only given 30% chance of development. It's going to struggle because the unfavorable upper level winds as well as the westerlies are blowing it apart. The shear is just tearing that apart. So it's not in the dust layers picking up. So it's not going to grow. That one's going to grow. So regarding Tropical Depression 9, before we get into the hazards, I wanted to get deeper into Tropical Depression 9. The Hurricane Center has very high confidence that this is going to be a Florida storm coming up Wednesday or Thursday of this week, of next week here for a landfall somewhere in Florida. Okay. Now, what I want to caution all of my listeners and advisors is that this cone of uncertainty is going to change. That's where the center of the storm is going to go. But we have to realize that it's all about missing. If the trough comes down from the northeast and the Central Plains, I know that the connection is there, but you have to realize this. You're talking 5 days out, 4 or 5 days out. And it's just too early to call that right now because it hasn't gotten up into where the point of turn between Cuba, between Havana, Cuba, the western tip of Cuba, Rio Pinar, Cuba, and the Mexican Yucatan Peninsula. Once it gets there on Monday, once it gets through Jamaica, past Jamaica, then you the confidence level should increase once we figure out once they pour data in the model. The Hurricane Center hunters are going out. The hurricane hunters with the planes have been out there yesterday and today, this morning, and they've fed more data in the computer. So as that comes in by Monday, I would say that's the day that you probably want to start making decisions in the Florida, not only Florida, but everybody from Florida back toward Louisiana. On the coastline should be making preparations for the storm because it could go left too. It's still there's not out of the realm of the possibility, despite the computer model showing that it's all turning east and it's going to connect with this trough and make a landfall somewhere between Fort Myers and the sun coast of Tampa. That's fine, but it's just too far out right now to be confident. They always say that with these models that you can only look at 3 days. Anything out above that is not as confident. Okay, so Sunday night into Mondays tonight, you want to check in with your local weather stations, the southeast coast and specifically the southeast U.S. coast, anywhere from the Big Bend of Florida, Fort Myers, Sarasota, Point Negarra, Charlotte, all the way over through Louisiana should pay attention. It is possible. The western area of the cone, outside the cone, is still possible, as this is only where the center of the storm is forecasted to go once again. So just to keep that in mind. But regardless, we're gonna have a tropical storm Hermine, a hurricane Hermine, coming up very shortly here, if not a major hurricane coming up here very shortly, somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico by Tuesday of next week, of this coming week. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, continue to be prepared. Just get your plan ready because, matter of fact, the second peak of the hurricane season is between this time, the end of September to October the 10th. So it's not surprising that we're getting a lot of storms this time, but just to be prepared. So that's something I wanted to mention. Now, the Eastern Pacific, we still have Tropical Storm Newton out there for our friends in Baja California and Mexico, the western coast of Mexico. 50 mile an hour sustained winds, 1,000 millibars pressure, is moving west-northwest at 7 miles an hour. So it's going to bring some extra moisture and showers along the coast. And feed that moisture up into the desert southwest as well. So if you're in Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, El Paso, back toward Baja California and down through the channels there, Gulf of California, that moisture is going to feed up from Newton. And then there's a little disturbance that's given a 0% chance behind it because of the upwelling that's going to be taking place. Central Pacific, you look absolutely fabulous. Hawaii, all looking clear there. There's no tropical development there. Now on to the hazards here, courtesy of pivotalweather.com. National Weather Service current hazards. It's a beautiful fall day, the first official day of fall here. We have absolutely no hazards, just a few high wind warnings in the mountains of Wyoming, up I-25 heading toward Casper and Casper, Wyoming there, and some of the passes there, and also some high wind warnings across Maine, northern Maine, some high wind warnings there as the trough that is leaving the east coast of the United States that's going to connect with Fiona later on tonight is blowing winds, heavy northeast winds through Maine and the Canadian border up there, and Presque Isle, Maine, and the Canadian border up there. So elsewhere, we don't have anything else to worry about. Fall weather's fabulous throughout much of the country, and we just have some showers in the middle of the country. So if you're heading toward Minneapolis, St. Paul, Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Chicago, there's some showers coming through there, and associated with a cold front that is dipping, a backdoor cold front, kind of an Alberta Clipper, if you will, if it was the wintertime. But and that backdoor cold front is sliding through there as well and sparking off some showers, non-severe in nature. So just want to bring that nature to you as well. But once again, this has been your update, your tropical update, as well as your National Weather Service hazards update for the lower 48 United States. Please be sure to subscribe. We're going to be talking about a lot more about the Tropical Depression 9, as well as some other things that's coming up in the pipeline as well. Thank you very much for listening. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next episode.